Well, good morning and welcome to Easter Sunday. You know, I can't think of a better place to begin our journey through the moments of Easter than right here in the cemetery. However, when most of us read the Bible, I think we read it devoid of emotion or what was really happening in the moment. Take Matthew 28, for instance. How many times have we read that passage and the words have just rolled off of our tongue so quickly and effortlessly, and we've been left with the sentiment, oh, that was nice, and yet there was nothing nice about it. Matthew 28:1 says this, "Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat upon it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. The guards shook with fear, for they had seen him, and they fell into a dead faint. Then the angel spoke to the women. 'Don't be afraid,' he said. 'I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead, just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was laying. And now go quickly and tell the disciples that he is risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you.' And the women ran quickly from the tomb." Okay, hold on a second. Rewind. Let's take that passage just a little bit more slowly. Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Now, there isn't anything particularly remarkable about that passage unless you're sort of like me. You see, I don't like graveyards. I really don't have much use for them. I mean, I enjoy walking around and looking for the oldest tombstone, but beyond that, I don't like them very much. I buried my mom and dad in this graveyard here at Brookside Cemetery. My dad passed away in 2000 and my mom in 2011. And I don't know if this makes me a bad son or not, but I actually haven't been back here since then. However, it was meaningful for Mary and the other Mary to go back to the tomb. So on Sunday morning they arrived. But verse 2 says, "Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and rolled away the stone and sat upon it." Now most translations put that word "for" in there. There was this great earthquake because an angel of the Lord came down from heaven. In other words, this angel breached the barrier between heaven and earth, and when he did, the shock waves affected the bedrock, and the ground rolled, and the tectonic sheets began to shift, and the earth was actually impacted by this angel's arrival. Imagine that scene being played out here at Brookside Cemetery. And imagine the barrier between heaven and earth splitting open and an angel coming down and then being bright lights, and the angel affects the ground and the bedrock, and the tectonic sheets begin to shift and move, and the ground begins to roll, and he comes up with superhuman strength, and he topples over this gravestone, exposing the coffin down below. The dirt is flying all over the place, and then he sits upon the toppled over stone, almost as if he does this every day. But as if that wasn't enough, the Bible tells us what happens next. Then the angel spoke to the women, "Don't be afraid." I bet the women were sitting there going, "Oh, we're not afraid. We're terrified." But the angel continues on. It says, "I know you're looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead, just as he said would happen." Listen, this is no nice Easter story. I mean, this is craziness. The angel breaks the barrier between heaven and earth. The ground shakes. He flips over this stone and sits upon it. And then the body that was inside is now reconstructed, rejuvenated, re-energized, revitalized, every other word you can think of, including resurrected, and is now walking around. But then the angel continues and says, "Come see where the body was lying. And now go quickly and tell his disciples that he was risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I've told you." I love that the angel tells them that, "Remember what I've told you," because I bet the minute they walked away from that scene, they were looking at each other going, "Did that just really happen? Hold it. What did he say we're supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go next?" But the story continues. The women ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy. I think in our context here at Brookside, I think Mary and the other Mary would have ran straight to their car. They would have jumped in, they would have peeled out of the cemetery, and the whole time driving down the road, they'd be looking down every alley, looking down every side street, wondering if they were going to see their friend again. You know, you can use a lot of different words to describe this story, but nice should never be one of them. Outrageous, stunning, doubtable, unnerving, mind-bending, magnificent. and maybe even terrifying. In fact, the emotional state of the women is said to be frightened and full of great joy. I think they were nervously laughing, they were giddy and terrified all at the same time. But for Mary and the other Mary, I think the dominant emotion was probably one of anticipation. Not some sort of ethereal, distant, futuristic anticipation like I have of one day in the future meeting my mom and dad again, but more of a in-the-moment anticipation that they might encounter Jesus at any minute. And we can have that kind of anticipation right now. We ought to be those people looking down every alley, glancing down every side street, catching ourselves laughing nervously, maybe even feeling a little silly, knowing that people don't rise from the grave, and yet having hope in the one who did. In fact, it's our hope and our prayer that through the reflections, the scriptures, the prayers, the songs and the moments of our service, you might find that anticipation welling up, that you might actually experience this Jesus in a way that is furthest from nice and far closer to life-altering.